best-selling book of all times is the Bible. Why? When people find themselves faced with challenges, it's a good place to go to get answers. But what do you do on the business side of the balance sheet? Is there a Bible? Stay tuned. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate and lead and inspire. And the answer is yes, there is. The #1 best-selling book on self-improvement, self-help, growth of all times on the business side of the balance sheet is a book called Think and Grow Rich. But just as the Bible has many books, the 5 books of Moses, the New Testament, all the different books, Napoleon Hill did not write Think and Grow Rich alone. He wrote several different books. And one of the things that I want to talk about in kind of an ongoing theme is that technology changes, philosophies remain the same. So I went back and I took a look at some of Napoleon Hill's philosophies, and I found Napoleon Hill's 10 rules of self-discipline. Let's go over them. Now keep in mind, these were written in like the 30s, 40s, and 50s, which is way before I was born. Yes, Eli, before I was born. But let's take a look and see if they still apply today. The first one is keep your temper cool when others get hot. You know, that's a real important thing, because what happens is people tend to get, when one person gets emotional in a negative way, another person will tend to mirror that same kind of action, that same character, and that's not a good thing. One of the things that you want to do is, when there's trouble around you, you want to be in control of yourself. You want to be under control. You want to be under control of yourself, and that puts you in a position to be in control of others. Because when you're under control, people look to the person that's under control. And I can tell you this from coaching basketball: tie score, 6 seconds left in the game, call a timeout. My kids, they come over, they sit down on the bench, and these kids who are normally talking on 10 miles a minute all the time during practice, they probably even talking in their sleep, when push comes to shove and it's pressure time, they're all up, sitting down on the bench, looking up at the coach like this, and wondering, okay, coach, what do we do now? And I'm under control. All right, gang, let's get together. Here's what we're going to do. Listen carefully. And then we go through exactly what we're going to do. By the same token, this is sort of a corollary to that. As a salesperson, one of the things that you want to do is you're going to run into objections. All right? And when you're selling a particular product or service, let me tell you a little bit of a secret. People are not all that creative when you talk with them. Let me give you a quick example of that. When I was in college, one of the things that was kind of trendy back then was to have a waterbed. And you know me, I'm always on the cusp of fashion and trends, as you can tell. I went out and I got myself a waterbed. And people would come by and they'd always say exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. And you know what they said? They said, oh, I could never get one of those because I'd get seasick. Everybody said they were going to get seasick. One of the other things, excuse me, when I was in sales was, and this was my early days, I worked for a company, a real small mom and pop company that sold belt buckles. And we sold belt buckles to police, fire departments, even correctional facilities. I went to Walla Walla State Prison to make a presentation once. But our biggest sales came when we would go to a convention, when all these like all the firefighters from a particular state would get together, or the police departments from a certain state would get together, and we'd fly to these different places. And we had these huge monoliths with all of these belt buckles on them. And I can't tell you how many times people would come by, they'd take a look, or they'd pick one up from the table and they'd look at it and they go, nice buckle, all right? And my boss and me, we would look at each other, you know, all the time, and he would look at me and he'd go, nice buckle, all right? My point is here in sales, and this is a point for those of you that are trying to be persuasive, not just in sales, but in any walk of life. When somebody has an objection, a lot of times people are not creative. You already know what they're going to say. You already know what their objection is. And so the temptation is to cut them off at the pass and answer the question before they even ask it. Don't do that. Let them take the air completely out of their balloon. Serves two purposes. Number one, it gets them to feel like they're getting the thing off their chest and they're expending their energy that they want to expend. And secondly, it makes it feel, they're not fighting you back. When you interrupt somebody, they want to interrupt you back, all right? Frequently I say to people, pardon me while you're interrupting, you know? But one of the points is, let them finish. And then when they finish, and then when you want to talk, then they will extend the courtesy to you to let you talk as well. And this is a lesson that I learned additionally on the personal side of the balance sheet. And I'm not saying this with any prejudice. I'm saying this, there was a book that was written, frankly, I forget what the title of it is. Oh, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. All right? And after going through 2 divorces, I thought, you know, maybe it would be a good idea of, you know, for me to read that book and find out a little bit more about how women think. And one of the things that I found was a lot of times, and this is from the book, but you know what, I found it to be true. When women are complaining about a particular issue, or they have a problem that needs to be solved, a lot of the time, they're not interested in having you help them solve it. What they're interested in is getting it off their chest and saying it and leaving it alone. As opposed to men, when they have an issue or problem, they are more interested in the challenge. Now, I please don't send me letters. You know, that was very surprising to me. I didn't know that, but I found in reality, in real life, that to be the case. So I stopped solving problems when I was speaking with women and started to listen all the way through and say, yeah, gee, okay, that type of thing. And that made the relationships better. Once again, please don't send me letters or bombs or anything like that. My point is, there are certain realities that exist. Second thing, there's 3 sides to every argument. There's your side, there's the opponent's side, and there's the truth. Keep that in mind. Third discipline from Napoleon Hill. Never give directives to a subordinate when you're angry. You don't want to do that. When you do that, you'll say something wrong, and what happens when you're angry is your subordinate will use it against you at the most inconvenient time for you. So always, when you're giving instructions, when you're giving directives, always make sure that you're giving them on an even keel, on an even temper, because it will cause problems for you down the road. Here's Napoleon Hill's 4th discipline. Treat all people as if they were rich relatives from whom you expect to inherit something. Okay? Well, in other words, he's saying treat people kindly. If you want people to respond to you instead of react to you, if you want people to do favors for you, if you want to establish a good relationship, you know, a good give and take, don't treat them like you're up here and they're down there. Treat them as if they were going to bequeath you some small fortune. Because if you don't, when they're in a position to bequeath you whatever it is you need to be bequeathed, it becomes more difficult. The 5th one for today, look for the seed of equivalent benefit from every unpleasant circumstance that you face. this is a very important one. Sometimes people get laid off from a job. How many times have you heard the story where somebody got laid off from a job, push came to shove, they needed to find new employment. Not only did they find new employment, but it was the career of a lifetime. It was the trampoline that lifted them to the heights that they were later able to achieve. One of the things you need to do is you need to take a look at a scenario when it happens to you and say, okay, there's got to be a seed of equivalent benefit to what I'm feeling as a loss right now. And this is from Napoleon Hill. Start looking for it immediately, and when you do, it will lessen the wound that you're feeling because of the bad thing that happened, the bad seed. So those are 5 seeds from Napoleon Hill. Keep your temper cool when others get hot. Remember, there are 3 sides of an argument. Never give directives to a subordinate when you're angry. Treat all people as if they were rich relatives from whom you expect to inherit something. And look for the seed of equivalent benefit from every unpleasant circumstance that you face. Next time we get together, we're going to go over the other 5 rules that Napoleon Hill gave us. And because we're never going to end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's get out there and take charge! I'm Eli's dad.